Imagine a president who says we will stand up and defeat radical Islamic terrorism. And we will call it by its name. We will defend the United States of America.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have, of course, Senator Cruz. And now we have Congressman Tim Huelskamp, member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, chairman of the House Tea Party Caucus, and U.S. Congressman from the great state of Kansas. Hello, sir.
Hello, Steve. Pleasure to join you.
Well, always good to talk to you, sir. Before we get to what really bothers me, and I'm sure it must bother you a lot more, what's your take on Ted Cruz being the first to throw his hat in the ring?
Well, I'm pretty excited by Senator Cruz and other conservatives looking at the race, but it takes, I think, the reason we can win in 2016 is by focusing on conservative principles, and that's what Ted talks about. That's what the Senator's been working on, and many others. So instead of talking about little things, it takes us to big things. And if Republicans are going to have the White House in 2017, it'll be about big visions, big principles, and it's good to see Senator Cruz talking about those.
Do you think the people like Peter King, who call Ted Cruz names, so, Republicans calling Ted Cruz names and saying bad things about him, do you think this is orchestrated from the Republican leadership?
I'm not sure who's orchestrating what, but there is establishment in Washington. The last thing they want is a conservative in the White House. I think many of them actually would take a Democrat over a conservative Republican. I'm not saying that's Peter King's position, but at the end of the day, the only way we win the White House will be as a conservative, not as a Mitt Romney-like moderate. That hasn't worked. Ask John McCain and Mitt Romney. We have to talk about what we're for and talk about what our vision is for the future of this nation, and the people are ready and willing to follow someone who can talk about big ideas that work, and their conservative ideas and ideals and principles.
All right, we led the charge, and I'm proud that you did. To defund the department or shut down the Department of Homeland Security, or should I say withhold the funding for Obama's executive order, which might have resulted in shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. So a group called American Action Network, a nonprofit whose board includes a former Boehner chief of staff, Barry Jackson, they spent $300,000 calling you out by name, along with Congressman Steve King and Matt Salmon. How do you feel about this?
Well, I think it's unprecedented for a sitting Speaker of the House. I mean, it's an affiliated group tied closely to John Boehner, as well as other establishment figures in Washington, D.C., and this shows how tenuous their power is. I think it's actually a good sign that conservatives are making a difference in Washington, D.C. We're exposing the cases and the times and the ways in which the Republican establishment is not following Republican principles. But to engage outsiders, to hire folks to run attack ads is stunning. It's unprecedented. The Democrats don't do that to each other. These are the same folks. Instead of going after Harry Reid and his folks who were filibustering DHS funding over, they want amnesty for illegal aliens, they went after conservatives. They got that backwards. But now we're seeing they're doing that again this week over a budget issue. Actually, one of my friends was joking he hadn't identified where he's at on the upcoming vote on the House budget because he doesn't want to identify his coordinates for fear John Boehner's groups will start coming after him over a budget issue.
I mean, this is from a speaker who blamed Ted Cruz for, quote, making me shut down the government back a couple of years ago. Of course, Boehner didn't shut down the government. It was Obama who shut down the government. So, I mean, what is wrong with John Boehner?
Well, you wonder how someone can get in the band if they can't even carry a tune. At the end of the day, the president wanted to shut the government down. At the end of the day, when John Boehner and Mitch McConnell say they're never, ever going to give up something, or they're going to actually never shut the government down, the president knows that. He out-negotiates them all the time, and it's really not rocket science. But the idea that the speaker would work together with outside groups, which is highly unethical. Is there a direct connection? I don't know, but its former chief of staff for years is running this entity. Actually, in the House Republican Conference this morning, the speaker quoted the leading member of the American Action Network. That's an affiliate of this group running the ads. They're the same group. He quoted them as the expert on our budget issues. So to say he has no connection to him when he quotes him in front of the Republican Congress, I mean, there's no doubt. Everybody knows that.
Right.
The question is, will Republican members stand up to that? Will the Republican base stand up to that? And at the end of the day, will you see conservatives going after the Peter Kings of the world?
Well, what would you like to see? We got 30 seconds. How would they stand up to Boehner? What would you like to see Republicans do?
Well, I think we got to push forward, repeal Obamacare, push forward with some fundamental tax reform, push forward with how we're actually going to save money rather than spend money. We got a chance to save and secure Medicare, and what they're planning on doing is nothing.
Yeah.
In this dog fix. At the end of the day, they're just adding to the deficit, which is the wrong thing to do. Let the Democrats do that.
Congressman, keep up the fight. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson's next. Don't go away.